Welcome to this video tutorial that I'm calling Print with Markers. This is based on an activity that I did when I was a classroom art teacher, and it's something that is simple enough for kindergarten and first graders to do, as well as a type of thing that can even inspire your older students to come up with some very creative printmaking activities. The supplies required are simple and easy to find. Most of them are things that you'll have already around the house. You can use this to make pictures like you see here, or bookmarks, or a variety of other things. It's a great way to enhance a school report or a school project. And it's actually part of another series that I have called Printmaking Basics. The class is called Print with Markers, and you can find the full class on my Skillshare channel. So at the end of this tutorial, I'll tell you a little bit more about that and how you can access a free trial to check out this class as well as other wonderful classes that can be found on the Skillshare website. So let's get started. You'll need to gather a few art supplies for this class. Most of them are easy to obtain at your local craft or hobby supply store or wherever school supplies are sold. You'll want to have a table cover because this does get wet. I use plastic tablecloths from a party supply or grocery store. You'll need a little printer paper for your drawing, a paper towel, spray bottle, ballpoint pen, pencil, and a small paintbrush. You'll want to use water-based markers. The brands that I have found work the best are Crayolas, Tombows, and the Artist Loft brand that you can find at Michael's craft stores. You'll need to also get some styrofoam. You can purchase this at a craft and hobby supply store or online, or you can reuse fruit and vegetable trays or styrofoam plates by cutting off the edges and using the flat surface. You can buy special paper for printmaking, but it isn't really necessary. If you have some heavy-duty watercolor or mixed media paper, that will work just fine for this project. No need to go out and buy something special for this. In my demonstration, I do use a stencil from this Sea Life set. It's not essential, but a stencil can be fun when you're working with children, and it can be a real time saver if you're looking for a simple shape. So gather up your supplies and meet me in the first lesson, and we'll get started. The first step is to prepare your illustration for your styrofoam. So I have these really cute sea life stencils, different sea creatures, and I have another set called zoo animals. I got these at a local school supply store, and they're just great when I'm with my grandkids. We have a lot of fun with these. So if you're working with children, or even if you just want some quick and easy outlines to work in for yourself, these are great. So the first thing I'm going to do is trace this fish onto a piece of computer paper. And I just cut it in half because that makes it the same size as my styrofoam sheet. And I'm just going to trace all the little details that are on here with my pen. A pencil works just as well. And now I'm going to take my little fish and put it on top of the styrofoam. And the next step is to just simply trace the fish onto my styrofoam. And you want to put some steady pressure. You don't need to push so hard that you tear the paper. Just some nice steady pressure to give the impression of your shapes on your styrofoam. And I'm going to trace everything. It doesn't have to be exact. When you remove your paper, you're going to see a very light impression. It might even be really hard to see, but a very light impression. You'll need to go back over that and deepen it. And now I'm putting some steady, firm pressure on my styrofoam because I want to cut into it. I don't want to go all the way through it. I just want to impress some nice deep lines. You can feel them with your fingers to create the shapes that I'm going to work with. So with children, especially young children, using some type of template or stencil can be really helpful if they're a little bit determined to draw something that they're not always familiar with drawing. And it's also very charming just to give the children the pen or the pencil, the piece of styrofoam, and let them draw directly on it. I've seen children do some amazingly cute things that way as well. But there I have my simple fish stencil. Once the image is on styrofoam, you can modify it. I'm going to go through and give the fish's body a little more definition, like so. And I'm going to add some little bits of scales, the impression of some scales to my little fish. And I'm doing this with my pen, and again I'm digging it in so that I'm getting a nice firm cut into there, and I'm going to give it just a little line. So I'm going to give myself just some fun shapes to color into when I apply my color. And just sort of following the edges of the image. And I'm going to give my fish a fishier fish eye. He's a very excited fish. So now I have a little more detail to my little fish. And I'm even going to give him some bubbles to add a little something to my image later. The next step is to add color, and for this I'm just going to use a set of classic colors by Crayola. They're easy to obtain just about anywhere that arts and crafts supplies are sold. They're inexpensive, and they do give really good results for this particular project. So I'm going to start with a little bit of bright yellow. And when you put the color on the first time, you're not going to see a lot of color. What you'll need to do is go back over it a second time. So I'm just going to get started here with a little bit of yellow, and I'm going to add some orange. And a little bit of red. And as you do this, you'll want to also make sure that you have I'm just going to go through and add some color. You will need to go to get the best results. After you've colored, you'll want to wait about 5 minutes or so and go back over your colors, especially the lighter colors, because you will get better results if you have a little bit more color on there. This I'm just going to do entirely in that blue color. The main thing is you do want color over all the sections of your design. You can leave some white spots, and I may do that around the eye. But overall, you do want to have a nice, some nice color on there. I'm going to make the lips blue. We don't want it to look too much like a little girl fish with lipstick. And I think my fish basic color is going to be a very, oh golly, green or purple. I think we're going to have a green fish. And you can see that the color bubbles up a little bit, the first layer that you put on. You can use other brands of markers. My grandsons and I have tested a variety of them. The one that we found gave us the least satisfactory color results were the ones that we got at Target. They were their house brand. Definitely didn't provide as much color as the Crayolas do. You can, if you happen to have them on hand, you can use Tombos. They work fairly well. Some of the colors, some of the Tombow colors though, tend to be very light when they are printed, so that you can expect some more of a pastel effect, even with the darker Tombos. You can also get, if you like the brush type markers, which are what Tombos are, you can also go to Michael's and get their Artist Loft brand, which is a cheaper, which is less expensive, especially if you're working with children or you're just trying this out for fun and you don't expect to be using them for brush lettering or anything else later. So I've almost got my fish all colored in. And I'm going to give him some little blue bubbles. Okay, now I'm going to go back over all my colors a second time. The first coat should be fairly dry when you do this, and that's going to give you just another layer of good color that will help to give your print a better impression on your paper. Okay, and our fish is ready for printing. For your printing, you are going to want to use a smooth but fairly heavyweight paper. I'm using a Canson mixed media sketchbook. It has a nice heavy weight, but the paper is smooth and it will give you a smoother impression. You can use watercolor paper, but it will give you more of a rough, textured look, which can be very beautiful. But if you want that smooth look, you're going to want to go with the smoothest paper that you have. You'll need a paper towel. your spray bottle with water and your prepared print. The first thing you want to do is spray your paper to moisten it. And I usually spray it pretty thoroughly without leaving puddles. And then you want to take your paper towel and just lightly smooth that water out so that it doesn't have any visible puddles. It's just dampened your paper. Okay, once paper is damp, you're going to very carefully turn your print face down, and at this point you do want to be really careful not to move the styrofoam, but you're going to want to take your paper towel and just gently but firmly press. I'm holding it with my fingers down here. Press and just use some steady, slow pressing motion over the back of your styrofoam. And you want to do this for, a minute or two. You want to give that wet marker some time to soak into your wet paper. Sometimes I'll also just leave it in place for a minute, just to kind of give it that little bit of extra time. And you never know what you're going to get with this type of printmaking. You can get a very clear, bright, intense print, or you might get a really soft pastel print. So there we go. Ours is pretty intense. Unfortunately, his little eyeball didn't really translate well, but I can go back through with my marker and just give him his little eyeball. There he is. And that's a rather nice print. You'll notice it has some really pretty textures. You can redo the bubbles if they didn't print as well. Usually that's just a place where it needed a little bit more of the marker, or possibly just a little bit more pressure while you were pressing with your fingertips. But this is really a lot of fun. Wow, next thing to do, this is a reusable stencil that you've created. I usually just spray it a little bit and take my paper towel and wipe it. You will notice some staining, but that won't affect the next layer of marker that you put on it. Just clean it off. And let it dry, and you're ready to reapply some fresh marker and create your print, either using the same colors or some different colors. You can add more color to your print, as I did here with a brush and a little bit of water. I blended the colors a little bit more. I added some details and some words, and this is an electronic version that I put over a picture from a beach scene. So you can do that. You can make bookmarks. You can do all sorts of fun things with this. It's a great way to do a little bit of play and a little bit of research with the material. And I do want to tell you a few more things about this video clip that you just saw. This is a part of a longer class that I created for a website called Skillshare. And if you'd like to learn more about printing with markers, I have an entire class in my Printmaking Basics series called Print with Markers. And in that class, you'll learn how I created that floral image that introduced this section, like here. And you'll also learn how to create an ombre effect with your markers, and how to use words and letters and numbers to create your images. So underneath this video, there is a link in the comments section of this video, and you'll be able to link directly to my Skillshare site. And when you do that, you'll be invited to a 2-month free trial that will give you access to hundreds of wonderful classes in the Skillshare community, as well as mine. And if you try and then find that it's not your thing, you're under no obligation to continue after your free trial period. So it's worth a try. There's a lot of wonderful things that you can learn on Skillshare.